Jennifer here. By request, I'm going to be doing an all things homeschooling video for you today. This has been really highly requested ever since we announced at the beginning of the school year that we would be homeschooling our children. So I'm really excited to talk about this because homeschooling has become somewhat of a passion of mine. It's been something I've researched for the past 2 years pretty much, and we finally took the plunge this year to do it. I am by no means an expert homeschooler. Okay, this is our first year doing it. And I have a kindergartner and a second grader. We have a baby, of course, but he's not in school. And as I'm shooting this, I am over halfway done through the school year, so we probably only have a few months left in what we're doing. I think, does this doll look creepy behind me? I'm just gonna move this doll. So I am actually shooting this from our homeschool room, and I will do a brief tour of our homeschool room in this video, probably near the end. So stay tuned for that. While I'm definitely not an expert at homeschooling, this year brought many variables, and I feel like I can definitely speak to them. We homeschooled on the road. We went to Europe for 5 weeks. I homeschooled different grades, and I have a busy toddler while I'm trying to homeschool. So I have all of that. We've experienced what it's like to be in a private satellite program, which I'll talk to you about as well. And so I just have a lot to say on the subject. So here we go. And also I just want to say that this video is not only for people who homeschool their children. I think this video is for everybody with children, or if you have grandchildren, because I'm also going to be talking about different curriculum, the type of things that we use, and you could use those as supplemental things for your child. Like if you have a child who's struggling to read, I've just got a great book recommendation for you, for example. So this is not just for homeschoolers or people who are considering homeschooling. I also want to say that unfortunately this video will probably be another controversial one, because it's like whenever you post something and it varies from what someone else does, it just brings a lot of controversy. So right off the bat, I am announcing here that I have absolutely nothing against public school or private school. I went to public school for my entire education. My husband went to a private boarding school for his education in England. And we don't have anything against public school or private school. And we do not judge anybody who sends their kid to a public school or a private school. In fact, I think that all the options, public, private, and homeschool, are just different and right for different families. So homeschooling is not going to be right for everybody. Just like public school isn't right for everybody, and just like private school isn't right for everybody. This is by no means a criticism of either of those systems. Now, I will tell you why in this video, because we did send our oldest daughter to public school for kindergarten and first grade. I will talk to you about why some of that didn't work for us and some of it did work. So I'm going to talk to you about that, but that is just our personal experience, and it certainly isn't a criticism. Now, most of my friends with children, they send their children to public school, and so their children are fine, they're thriving, they're happy, the whole family's happy. So anyway, I just have to put this out there because, oh my goodness, every time I post about homeschool, I get comments from people, and they just get really mad when they hear about it. So now, having said that, I just have to say that I never thought that I would homeschool my kids. It was not on my radar. It was not something that I was ever interested in or ever thought that I would do. In fact, I will go so far as to say that I thought homeschooling was weird. I did. My whole life, I never knew any homeschoolers, of course, but of course I was judgy. So I thought that it was weird. I didn't understand how a parent could teach their child. I didn't understand the socialization thing that you get a lot. So I totally understand if you are coming to this video and you think that I'm doing something totally weird and strange and I'm messing up my kids. So, because that is honestly where I was most of my life. I just didn't understand homeschooling. I knew nothing about it. And I had no idea. So there's so many resources out there now that educate people on the subject of homeschooling. And my mind was really converted because we had to homeschool at the beginning of this year, and I'll tell you why in just a second. So I always get comments from people on social media or videos and stuff, people who are against homeschooling. They think it's harmful, they think it's weird, they think that, they feel sorry for the kids. And I just have to say that I understand, I get it. Like I used to kind of, not that extreme, but I used to think that way. Although I would never tell somebody that who homeschooled. I think it's so rude. I get the rudest comments from people who just feel like they can just say whatever they want to me. But anyway, so I just have to say that if that's the place that you're coming from, I just understand, because I used to think that too. But just because you feel that way, if you plan to watch this video, just watch it with an open mind. If you're going to write a comment on this video, please be kind, and if you can't be supportive and you have a question, just ask the question, but you don't need to personally attack me or my family or any of our choices or homeschoolers' choices or any of that, okay? So I just have to say that because every time I talk about it, I get major flack. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to talk about the pros and the cons of homeschooling as I see it in my first year. But before I do that, let me tell you why we homeschooled this year. So my older daughter was in kindergarten and first grade in public school. And we were actually in a very good public school. It was like #2 in all of LAUSD as far as testing scores go. It was a blue ribbon school, and that's where she went for kindergarten and first grade. And my younger daughter, she was in preschool at the time. So, you know, our family made the decision, the major decision, to move out of Los Angeles to a much more affordable area so that we could be completely debt-free. And so we made that radical decision, and we left Los Angeles and we bought a house in the suburbs, one that we could afford. And now we're living that debt-free lifestyle that we've been working toward for over a decade. So that was the final piece of the puzzle, because our mortgage was just unbearable in Los Angeles. And so we decided to leave. Because of this, we actually sold our home like at the end of the spring. So it was, the school year was coming to an end and we were selling our home. And we had to sell our home before we bought a home, because we planned to buy our home all cash, you know, so we could be debt-free. So because of this, we had no idea where we were gonna live. We had to wait until our property was sold, and that was sold pretty much at the end of the school year. And then once it was sold, then we genuinely started looking for a property in the area that we were looking in. So the way that it ended up working out was we did find a house, and we found it in July, and by the time everything closed, we moved in about mid-August, and that's when the schools start here. So we didn't know where our kids would be going to school. We had no idea. I wasn't able to enroll them in the public school in our area. So that was the first reason why I was looking into homeschooling long before this happened, because I knew that we were planning this. I knew we were planning to move. I knew that we wouldn't know where they were going to school and that we would probably have to homeschool them this year. So I was looking into it. I was watching YouTube videos, researching curriculum. I went to a homeschool convention. I just spent an entire year studying the subject. It was like all I read about, all I thought about, because it was daunting. And like I said, I came from the mindset that it was, you know, weird. Okay, I'm just being honest with you. So I had to really re-educate myself on that. And boy, did I get an education, because once you look into homeschooling, you see, I saw that I knew nothing about it, and I was making all these judgments and I knew nothing about it. Anyway, so that's why we initially knew that we were going to homeschool. And then the second part of that was also that we planned to travel to Europe. This was last year. We wanted to go for an extended period of time when there weren't a lot of tourists. So my husband is from England and his whole family lives there. So yes, so we wanted to spend time with Ben's family, and we were able to do that. So we went to England and Portugal, and we were there for 5 weeks. And we went in September to October. And so we were able to take our curriculum and our school with us on the road, and we were able to do it. And we did do it when we were on the road. We did have to take, you know, travel days off and special family days off and stuff like that. But yes, we were able to homeschool on the road. Those were the two main reasons that we started homeschooling this year. And one of the major benefits to homeschooling is that you have such a free schedule. You can travel whenever you want to. And we really don't like traveling at the peak of the season when everybody's going. It's more expensive, it's more crowded, and we just love doing it when nobody's there. So we had an amazing trip. I have a whole section of videos which I can link below or put iCards for about our European trip. And we got to incorporate a lot of amazing field trips into our homeschool. For example, in England, we got to visit Windsor Castle, Anne Hathaway's cottage, and Shakespeare Country. We just got to do so much, and it was very memorable for the children and for us as well. I just have to say that this year, this transition year where we have been homeschooling, has been maybe the best of my life. Homeschooling has been such an unexpected and complete and total joy. I just can't believe it. I didn't think that I would even like it when I started doing it. I thought it was just something that I had to do. We love it, and we all love it, and I'll tell you why, throughout the video. So those are the two main reasons. Those are the reasons that we tell everybody, because they say, oh, okay, I get it. We say that because when you talk to people about homeschooling, they don't always accept your answer, and they kind of, challenge you or they question you about it. But when I gave those answers, people just, readily accepted it, and they didn't really criticize us, for example. But obviously those are not the only reasons why we homeschool, because when we got back, we could have enrolled them in, the local school here. And the local school here is very good, actually. It's a 10 out of 10. So we could have done that. But there are a few reasons in addition to that why we are choosing to continue to homeschool, and we do plan to do it next year as well. So first off, I just want to say that my daughter's teachers, when she was in kindergarten and first grade, were excellent. Especially her kindergarten teacher. This woman was so wonderful, so talented. She was like the ideal kindergarten teacher, the one that you would just want for your child, and we loved her. And my daughter is very bright. My children are all bright, but I'm talking about her experience in school. My oldest daughter, she is a very avid learner, and she gets things really quickly, right? So she just kind of came home from kindergarten one day and she could read, and I had sort of been working with reading with her at home, but she picked it up so quickly, and her teacher was so good. So again, this is not a criticism of teachers either, because she had the most awesome teachers in public school. I loved her teachers so much. So that's not where we struggled. Where we did struggle was the curriculum in the school. And in America, for those of you who don't know, there is a common curriculum that public schools use called Common Core. Oh no, as soon as I mention that, I know I'm going to get so many comments, but listen, obviously, there can never be a universal curriculum that's right for all children, because different children learn in different ways. So Common Core might be a curriculum that really works for some children, and that's how their brain works, and they just get it. And I think that is the case. Otherwise, I don't know why the schools would be using it. But for some people, the way that Common Core, and I'm talking about the math program with Common Core, the way that works, it just doesn't work for them. And so my daughter, who is incredibly bright, she doesn't have any learning disabilities, and she just picks concepts up like immediately. She gets it. She's a very easy child to teach. When she was in first grade, she would come home with her math test, and she would start struggling in math. So she brought one of her math tests home, and she had -11 out of 25 problems. And I was just like shocked, because I thought, what? This is first grade, They were learning double-digit addition. And I just have to say personally that the way the curriculum is, the way it's taught, it just was very confusing, not only for her, but for me, because double-digit addition is a very easy concept. And the way I learned it, the old-fashioned way, it's quite easy. But she wasn't grasping the way that the Common Core taught that. So for her, it was not right, okay? And I'm not saying it's not right for everybody, but for her, she was struggling with that particular curriculum. And so what I did with her test was I sat down with her and I taught her, the way that I learned double-digit addition, because back when I was in school, they just taught it the old-fashioned way, right? So I taught her that, and I had her redo all the problems, and she redid them, and they were all right. So right off the bat, I realized, there is something to a curriculum. Curriculum choices do matter, and they do vary from child to child. So one curriculum might work really well for one child, but it might not work for the other child. And that was the first red flag where I thought, oh, and she was really defeated over the fact that she'd gotten such a low score on math. And she was getting low scores on math because she just wasn't getting it the way it was taught. So that was, honestly, another deciding factor for us. We didn't we didn't like the way that the math was being taught. And again, that's not a criticism of the teacher, that's just the program that they have to use. So we decided to try homeschooling, obviously, and I was excited to research different curriculums. And I did a lot of research, particularly on the math curriculum, because that was the subject that my daughter was struggling with. And I wanted to find one that had really good reviews, that was clear and easy to use and just very plain and simple. And so I did find one. So my second grade daughter is using Horizons math this year. And this is the teacher's guide, and this is her workbook. And she had 2 of these. She's already finished the first one, and she's about a third of the way through this one. And so what a difference a curriculum makes, because this curriculum is, for her, it's just so good, so clear and straightforward. And my husband worked with her on math a lot, but now that he's busier with work, I do it with her. And math is not my strongest subject. But the teacher's guide, if you can see, I'll just kind of open up to a random lesson. It shows you everything you need to know. It's like the number of the lesson, the concepts, the objectives, teaching tips, and the materials that you'll need. And then it has the activities, and you go through all of these activities. And so, you use flashcards, you drill things, you count out loud with them, and then it tells you what to do to correspond with the curriculum that they use. So I'll open to a page that she hasn't done yet. See if that can focus there. So anyway, so yeah, you're able to just individually go over every problem with her. So one of the pros about homeschooling is that I'm finding is that with the curriculum, and because it's one-on-one instruction, you are able to just, you don't move on until the child gets it, because you're able to test that and you're able to see that every single day. And you can tell when they get it and you can tell when they don't. And there's tests all throughout the curriculum. So let me back up just a little second. I'm so excited that I'm just talking a mile a minute, I know. Before I knew anything about homeschooling, I didn't really realize that there were curriculums that you could buy. And I know that not all homeschoolers do this, but most people do have a curriculum that you purchase, and it has a teacher's guide. It tells you exactly what you need to do. The curriculum is usually interesting, exciting, varied, and it has tests in there and quizzes, and you can check, your progress and everything. It has review. So you're just really able to realize that the material is sinking in. I can tell that because every day when I sit down with both of my daughters, we sit down and we have a period of review. So we'll just orally review what we learned yesterday, or on the board, or with flashcards, or whatever, but we review. And I can just tell immediately, oh, she's got this concept, she gets it, she knows. And then we work on the new parts, and she does that, and she's able to self-check her work and everything. And so it's also like that with the language arts curriculum for my second grader as well. I will list the names of all the curriculum that we use below, but I love her language arts and reading curriculum, and it's just because it is so thorough. But I get the teacher's guide, I write everything on the board, we go over the rules, for suffixes, for capitalizations, for punctuations, homophones, just things like that. And it's so awesome because we sit down and I'll ask her a list, like I'll show you an example of a review list for language arts. So for example, I'll sit down with her and I'll say, how do you spell the shen sound in mission? How do you spell the zhen sound in vision? And she'll just tell me, okay? And her spelling is so strong. What's a noun? What's a pronoun? What's a naming noun? What's the difference between ownership nouns and plural nouns? What's the suffix rule when a root word ends with a vowel and a Y? What's an antonym? What's a synonym? She'll have a spelling list that she writes out, and then with reading, she has reading comprehension, where she'll read the short story, I'll read the book, and we'll go over it and about comprehension. So there's so much. I can't get into it all in this video because this is gonna be the longest video I've ever done if I do that. Now, my younger daughter, she's in kindergarten, and we use the Abeka program for her in Complete, pretty much. I supplement with a few other things. And they have a really strong learning to read program, and it's you know, kindergarten is really focusing on reading, writing, and arithmetic. And so we're just really strongly focusing on that now. So she has her number skills book here, and it's very colorful, and you know, she's learning the time, she's learning addition, she has tests and things like that. So I'm really happy with that curriculum for kindergarten. This is her writing. She has letters and sounds for K-5, which is what she's in, and this is just a great phonics program. And she also has Think and Learn and some art and other things like that. They also have readers as well. But this is for those of you, whether you homeschool or not. This book, Phonics Pathways, has been so amazing with teaching her to read, because before we even started Abeka last year, she was showing interest in reading when she was still in preschool. And I'd read so many good things about this book, so I just got it on Amazon, and I'll link it below. It's called Phonics Pathways, and it's nothing, you look at it and you think this looks boring, it's nothing special, it's not colorful at all. So when you go through this book, the way it's written, the funny stories, my kindergartner loves this book, and it's really prepared her. In fact, when she started Abeka, she was really advanced with reading already. So it was kind of slow for her in the beginning, the homeschool curriculum, but now she's kind of catching up with it. But we do this as well, Phonics Pathways, and this is a really good book to teach your children how to read. I feel like I'm all over the place on this blog, but I'm just very excited. Okay, so I'm looking at my list here. So we've already discussed that the pros are freedom of schedule. You can do, you know, whatever you want to do whenever you want it. And sometimes in our family, the kids will wake up really early, like they'll wake up at 6 a.m. So we just get up for the day and we have breakfast and get dressed, make our beds and all that, and then we start school. Well, sometimes we start school at like 6:45 in the morning, and then we finish really early when we do that. And my husband will take them to the snow, he'll take them on different, you know, kind of adventures and things like that. Or we'll just get stuff done in the house, we'll do projects, or we'll do extra curricular activities. And then sometimes there'll be a day where we need to, you know, we have doctor's appointments and all sorts of stuff. So we end up doing night school, we'll do school at night. So that's just really neat. You could do it whenever you want to do it. The big question that everybody asks is, what about socialization? What about socialization? And that's the biggest criticism that I get when I talk about homeschooling. I posted a picture of our 100th day of school on Instagram, and I had a few comments, negative comments about that, and anyway. So people do, they want to know about socialization. I just have to say that my children's social life is more active now than it was when we were in public school, because there was less time to socialize, but here there's more time, since we're really efficient with our time. We're actually involved in a private satellite program, and we go once a week, and the kids have school and they have classmates and teachers and different subjects. So they have history, they have biography, chapel, they have PE and art, I believe, in this private satellite school. So they go once a week and they have all their friends from it. We have park days, so after the school we go to the park. Also field trips, they have like 25 field trips a year. You don't have to go on all of them. We've gone on some amazing field trips with them, and we have some really good ones coming up too this year. So we have many opportunities for socialization. Just even on Monday, we have a bowling party that we're going to with them. I love this program. I love the other moms in the program, and the girls have so many friends in the program. And so that's just really nice. So we don't have a problem at all with socialization. We have that. They also do piano, and they see friends at piano. We also go to church, and they have their Sunday school and everything. Plus, we are in a neighborhood full of kids, so they're just constantly socializing with children, I feel like. So that has not been a problem for us. I do have a negative story about socialization from when my daughter was in school. And so that's the trouble. It's like, you know, the wonderful thing about her being in public schools, she did have great friends and she loved seeing them every day. So she definitely did. But there was one day too when she came home, and she told me that one of the boys she was sitting at the table with was whispering this bad word to her the whole day. And it was a bad word, okay? Like a very bad word. And so she just said, he was just whispering that to me all day. And I was really disturbed by that. You know, I immediately contacted the teacher and we were talking about that. So Sometimes, you know, there's good socialization and there's bad socialization. So I'm happy that we're able to control a bit of the bad socialization, you know, for now, while they're really young. So there's that. And then also another one of the pros, which I'll review, is that I'm finding that the retention of their knowledge is really sticking. They are retaining this knowledge, and I'm able to test that and check that on a daily basis. And I just know that they're getting the concept and they're not just kind of brushing over the concept and moving on. Many people ask, how do you know if they're up to the standards that the state schools require? And my children are going to be taking the standardized test, and it's going to be in April, and it's the Terra Nova testing. So it's the standardized test for private Christian schools. So they're both going to be taking the test, and we will be able to see, you know, how they're doing and you know, where they stand and where their weaknesses are and everything like that. Obviously, their education is very important to me, and the testing is important too. So we're definitely going to be taking the standardized test this year. I've talked about all the amazing things and why I love it so much. Now let's talk about the cons, because obviously there are cons and it's not for everybody. So, you know, the major con is that homeschooling is time consuming. Now, they're not in school for as long as they were. We're finding that we can get our work done. My kindergartner can get her work done in about 1.5 to 2 hours. And my second grader about 4 hours. So we usually start at 8 and we're usually finished by lunchtime. And we do a very thorough job too. We're not skipping, cutting corners, or doing anything like that. So because it's concentrated work, concentrated effort. But having said that, that takes a lot of time for the parent, and a lot of parents have to work or they're not able to do that. So a con is that it is very time consuming. Another con is that you do have to actively seek out socialization. So we do that through our private satellite program. But if you don't have a program or a co-op or some sort of group that you can go to, it could be isolating. I could definitely see that. And so you do have to actively seek out social situations. Now, homeschooling is so popular right now that most big cities, most areas have some sort of group, some sort of you know, place that you can join where you can have social opportunities. This has turned into such a long video that I'm actually going to do the homeschool room tour in the next video. So I hope you look forward to that. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Daily Connoisseur. If you are looking into homeschooling, I hope that this was helpful for you. If you just wanted to learn more about it, if you're a veteran homeschool and you just like to talk about homeschool, I hope that this video was great. And again, please be kind in the comment section below. And I love to hear your experiences, your thoughts, everything. I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day. I'll see you soon. Bye.